Okay, one last type of problem we are going to look at here in 12.3 is example 3. I'll do two examples for this one. Here's example 3a. And in example 3a, we are actually going to find the inverse of a matrix. So like I mentioned, finding the determinant is helpful for us as we go to find our inverse. So I guess first of all, let's start off with if I have matrix A, what its inverse is going to look like. If matrix A is A, B, C, D, the inverse of matrix A, its multiplicative inverse, is going to look like this. Okay, and so 1 over the determinant of matrix A times our matrix, but our matrix changes a little bit. So in our inverse matrix, my diagonals swap places. So I'd have D here and A here. B and C stay in the same place, but we take the opposite signs. Opposite of B and opposite of C. And that's how we are ultimately going to get our inverse matrix. Okay, and then I'm going to make the note here too, which you might be able to tell by looking at how our inverse matrix is set up. Think about when would we have an issue here? Well, if the determinant of A was 0, then we'd be dividing by 0. That doesn't work. So we can't, our matrix cannot have an inverse if the determinant is 0. Or in other words, matrices have an inverse. As long as the determinant doesn't equal 0. And for this, we're really only going to work with 2 by 2 matrices. All right, so let's start off with finding the inverse of our matrix. -3, 6, -1, 3. Well, and when we find our inverse, in order to find our inverse, we need to know what the determinant is. So let's start off with that. And this is matrix A. The determinant of matrix A and take -3 times 3 minus 6 times -1. Or in other words, -9 plus 6 is -3. Okay, now that's going to be helpful because my inverse, and remember this -1, it's not really a negative first power, it represents our inverse, notation for inverse. If I follow my pattern here, it's 1 over the determinant of A. Well, our determinant of A, we figured out it was -3. And then, what goes inside my matrix here, my diagonals my diagonal starting at the top left going down, these numbers swap. So I have positive 3 in the top left, negative 3 in the bottom right. And then these numbers, my remaining numbers, the signs switch. So this is negative 6 and positive 1. Right? From here, this is really just negative 1/3 times my matrix. Scalar multiplication, like what we did at the beginning of section 2. So I take negative 1/3 times each of my numbers inside my matrix. Negative 1/3 times 3 is negative 1. Negative 1/3 times negative 6 is 2. Negative 1/3 times 1. Negative 1/3 times negative 3 is positive 1. So this is my inverse of matrix A. And if you wanted to, you could definitely double check. Take matrix A times the inverse, make sure you get the identity matrix and the opposite direction also. If you take the inverse times matrix A, you should get the identity.